Vice President joins us now, Kamala Harris. Thank you for joining us this morning. Congratulations on the anniversary. I want to begin with Ukraine. An advisor to Ukraine's president told ABC News this morning that there's a lot of shock and dismay about the president's comments on Ukraine. He's facing criticism for appearing to give a green light to a minor Russian incursion into Ukraine. What did the president mean by minor incursion, and what would be the U.S. response?
Well, good morning, George. It's good to be with you. Listen, every morning I read the PDB, the Presidential Daily Brief, which, as you know, contains classified information about threats to our national security and hotspots around the world. I am often in the Situation Room with the President, with the leaders of our military and intelligence community, and what I can tell you is that the President has been very clear that if Russia takes aggressive action, it will be met with serious, severe, and a unified response and consequences. And that position that we have taken is grounded in a number of values that we hold dear, including the importance of respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity, in this case of Ukraine. And we have not wavered from that perspective. We have been very clear with our partners and allies and with Vladimir Putin. Through various levels of discussions over a period of several weeks, if not months.
So any movement of Russian forces into Ukraine, into any part of Ukraine, even if it's not a full-scale invasion of Kiev, will be met by severe sanction and perhaps a military response?
We will interpret any violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity by Russia and Vladimir Putin as an aggressive action, and it will be met with costs, severe and certain.
Let's talk about voting rights. You said after the vote last night, of course, you were presiding in the Senate chamber, that the administration is not going to give up on the issue. What does that mean exactly? Are there executive actions the president can take that could accomplish the same goals?
Well, first, I appreciate you raising this issue because it is just foundational to our democracy. And I was there last night because there are two bills that were before the United States Senate, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. And they were designed, and I'm going to tell you why they were designed, because this is the reason we're not going to give up on it. They were designed to push back against the blatant and purposeful attempt by many states in our country to make it more difficult for all Americans to vote. There are laws that have been passed in our country that will reduce or eliminate drop boxes. Why is that important? Well, if you're a single parent, you got 3 kids in the back seat of the car, you don't have the ability to stand in line for hours to vote, but you want to vote. So you could fill out a ballot and then drive by a drop box and drop it off. If you are an American with a disability and it is extremely difficult for you to go to where the polling place is, you can vote by mail, but there are restrictions being placed on vote by mail. When we look at laws that have been passed that make it illegal to give people who are standing in line to vote food and water, we know this is a violation of the spirit that we hold dear about our democracy in terms of the importance of everyone's right to vote and every eligible American's right to vote.
Well, yeah, you believe it's important. I see that. There's no question about that. The president said he believes it's important. But what are you going to do now? It's not getting through the Senate.
Well, we're not going to give up on legislation because ultimately that is one of the most important aspects of what we must do to correct what has been happening in the various states. But there are other actions. So, for example, the Department of Justice has initiated investigations and action, civil action, as it relates to various laws that are a violation of our Constitution, letter and spirit. There is work that we will continue to do that is about convening folks around the country to uplift the message and to include what we need to do to expand the ability of all Americans to understand what's at stake. Because, George, I'll tell you, and that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, you would probably not be surprised to know how many people in the midst of the everyday burden of life are unaware of what's happening. And so part of our mission is to ensure that folks know what is happening to their neighbor, what is happening in their neighboring states, and ultimately what will contribute to a weakening of our democracy. We started the conversation on foreign policy. I have met with presidents and prime ministers who are leaders of our partner and ally countries. And I will tell you, it frequently comes up, they ask, well, what about the issue of voting in America? Because you hold yourself out to be a role model of what it means to be a democracy. This is one of the most important pillars of a democracy, and it appears that there's an erosion in America. Well, that is an issue that we should take seriously in terms of our ability to argue for the strength of democracies versus autocracies. And there's a direct connection between this and what we need to do in terms of securing our national security and securing our standing in the world. All these issues are related.
Madam Vice President, final question. You were sworn in 1 year ago today. Reflect on that. How has this experience changed you?
That's a great question. I will tell you one of the ways is that there's no question that we came in office during a confluence of crises. And to the extent that I've been able to travel, I've met some of the most extraordinary people, Americans in our country. I mean, we are, in fact, announcing today $100 million going to healthcare workers. Let's remember from the beginning of the pandemic to today, these are folks who are the heroes among us, who at the beginning, even when we didn't have vaccines, went to work every day, taking risks in terms of their own health and well-being in service of people who are perfect strangers to them. I've met small business owners who have kept the payroll going, even though they were at the very end of what they could do financially, but they knew they had to keep the business open for the sake of their community and their employees. I've met teachers who are committed to going to school and working each day, even though their resources are so few, but their mission is so important. And so there is a lot about a crisis that really does reveal the heroes among us. And in that way, I feel very inspired. I think we all should.
Madam Vice President, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be with you.